stimulated by the sunlight or by our red light to come back to life. And it brings the mitochondria back to life. And now having fully functional mitochondria is why a person will do so much better in many different ways, including MS.
Today I'm sharing some really interesting information about red light therapy from a chiropractor. But before we get into the episode, I want to share with you that I'm an MS integrative health coach, nutritionist, author, and speaker, and I help people reverse their MS. So if you're interested in chatting with me, just send me an email, info@nourishyourway.com, and I will get back to you. I'll tell you all about my 12-week program and how I help people heal from MS. Okay, so let's get into the interview today. Well, today's podcast is about red light therapy. And so today I want to introduce a very special guest I have with me today. His name is Carl Rothschild, and he's a chiropractor. And I would love to introduce him and have him tell a story about how he got into red light therapy. So welcome, Carl.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
So, as I'd mentioned to you here, it all started in 1972 when I was a junior at Stony Brook University out in Long Island, New York. It's a very good school, and I was a biology science nut, and I loved it, but I didn't see, I was into bacteria and viruses and essentially becoming a microbiologist. And I realized it's boring. I didn't really have much I couldn't relate to the bacteria as much. And I realized I wanted to work with people more than anything. And also on top of that, my focus was never going to be how much money I was going to make. My focus was how I could help as many people as possible. And so I was introduced to something that, as I had mentioned to you before, is about 2 notches back then, was considered about 2 notches below voodoo, and that was chiropractic. Very controversial back then. It's still controversial, but so I became a chiropractor from all the feedback that I was getting from chiropractors that I was interviewing. I would say, was this the smart idea for you to become a chiropractor? And every one of them fell in love with what they were doing. And that's what I wanted. I didn't want to focus on money. I wanted to focus on a beautiful career that helped as many people as possible. So in 1978, I became a chiropractor, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And then about almost 30 years ago, so 20, maybe 18 years into my practice, I was introduced to red light therapy. And it revolutionized my practice. Of course, I started out being like, no, this can't possibly work. You're telling me I'm going to shine a light on somebody and it's going to make a difference. Well, it did. And I was able to heal things on people that were striking. It was really astonishing. And then about 15 something years ago, it was discovered that there was an element of red, and only red light, that could help with fat loss. And that's when I said, okay, I know that in this country, weight loss in general is huge. And so I started manufacturing back then.
Wow.
And it was discovered that there was an element of red light, and only, as I said, only red light, that actually helped with fat loss. So let me just tell you how that mechanism works real quick to get that out of the way. What they discovered, and this wasn't known right away, they thought it melted the fat or liquefied it, something like that. Now, that's not what happens. What they found out is that this red light will actually change the fat cell wall temporarily to become more porous and allow some of the contents to leak out into the surrounding tissue. And then with our unique protocol, we move the fat, or encourage the fat to be moved away from the fat cells and eventually to the liver for use or elimination. And it works. It absolutely works. And so you're not killing anything. It's not like freezing the fat, boiling the fat, lasering the fat, or any surgeries, anything like that. It's not destructive at all. As a chiropractor, I don't believe in that type of technology, of that kind of medicine, or that kind of idea of killing essential tissue. And fat cells, unfortunately, have a bad rap because they have a lousy name. And people think, let's kill them, let's get rid of them. Well, they are essential tissue that are also involved with stem cell production and hormone production. And yes, they store fats, but they also store other things, including toxins as well. You don't want to kill those off. So at any rate, and so that was the beauty. A lot of chiropractors took to this technology of fat loss because you weren't damaging, you weren't injuring, and it was working.
Wow.
So I started manufacturing.
70% of people are overweight. So that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. And, it's not like they can go home and pig out every night. So if they follow along with a smart diet, which is very similar to what you and I were describing before, it's calorically neutral, essentially. Figure out what the person's weight should be. And we go on a calorically neutral diet that's not total sacrifice. Somebody who's obsessed with food, but they hate the fact that they're fat, will get on a diet, but once they lose the weight, if it's a really difficult diet, they're going to put it all back on. So we want to introduce them to something that's doable. And, there are diets out there that are, 400, 500 calories a day. Anyone's going to lose weight with that, but can you sustain and maintain that kind of diet? It's difficult. Yeah. Whereas if you do a calorically neutral diet, which is staying away from the things that we already know. Most people know what's not good for them. It's the inflammatory foods that's doing you in, and it's going to make you sick. So, and I don't want to spend a lot of time on fat loss, but I just wanted to mention that was the miracle that got me involved with manufacturing. And we were manufacturing smaller devices like lasers and pads and panels and things to cover parts of the body. And then COVID hit. And our practitioners wanted a way that they could have less physical contact between themselves and their patients, because with COVID, they didn't want to have to close down. So we developed the bed, because with the bed, the patient can get in and out of bed themselves. Don't need any staff contact at any rate. After the patient leaves the room, then a staff member goes in and just uses a wipe to wipe down the bed, and that's it. And they're ready for the next person. And we just thought this would be a nice substitute for what we had been producing up to that point. What we didn't realize, and what made the big miracle, was the fact that we learned when you bathe the whole body at the same time, head to toe, front and back, left and right, inside and out, affecting as many cells as you possibly can with this glorious energy of red and near infrared light. And before you were talking about sunlight, that's what we've done. Is we've taken 4 elements of sunlight, not UV light, not things that some people might consider problematic. And what we've done is concentrated it, magnified it many times, and drive it deep into the person's body. And that's where these miracles happen. And that's when we get people giving us feedback that, to be putting it mildly, is unbelievably surprising. One of the first ones was, I had mentioned to you before, was a gentleman who was having regular heart attacks. And I had never heard of this before. He started out over 15 years ago with 1 or 2 heart attacks a month. And they had implanted a defibrillator into his chest, so every time he died, it would zap him back to life. By the time we met him, it was up to 2 times a week that he was dying. And it had, up to that point, hundreds of heart attacks. And so we decided to only treat him for 5 minutes to try it out, knowing that the worst that'll happen is nothing, because, as I had mentioned before, there are no side effects. In 50 years they've studied this technology. There's never been a recorded side effect. So the worst that'll happen with anybody is nothing. So what did we have to lose? We put him in the bed for 5 minutes. He went home that night. And that was 2 years ago. He hadn't had a heart attack since. Did we expect that? No. We thought, okay, maybe it'll help somewhat. He's had more treatment, but no more heart attacks. And every part of his body has come back to life. I mean, he was dying. His energy was gone. His clarity was gone. Everything was failing. I mean, he couldn't take 10 steps without losing his breath. And which was terrible for him, because he used to be an athlete. And now he's running. Now he can do whatever he wants to do. He's back to life.
Wow, what a great start. Did he change his diet at all? Or no?
Not really. He wasn't on a bad diet at all. He was an athlete, so he was taking care of himself.
Okay.
He just had a faulty heart, to be honest with you. We always put people on smart diets, and a smart diet is not just calorically neutral as an issue, but also staying away from inflammatory stuff. I tell people to limit the grains, concentrate on smart proteins, smart fats, and as you had mentioned before, you're talking about the seeds and the nuts and the smart oils and things. And we actually have our own diet, but yours sounds great, so I'm not going to. Ours is called the Trifecta Light Diet, but it sounds very similar to what you're doing. And so smart fat, smart protein. And the thing that you want to become an expert at is with carbohydrates, because that's what causes most confusion to people. It's the reason why not only people get fat, but because they get sickly. And the carbohydrates, there are two kinds. There's more than two kinds. There's the smart carbohydrates, which is essentially fruits and vegetables.
Right.
And there's the dumb ones, which is everything else, which is the pasta, the breads, and all the starchy carbohydrates, simple
all
sugar.
The processed foods, yes.
So
what I teach people is, part of my protocol in getting people well with MS is getting sunlight. So we need sunlight, and it helps us produce vitamin D, which is great for strong bones and muscles, which we need. And it helps with our immunity too. So getting that sunlight is really good for us. But you and I were talking about getting red light therapy too, and the benefits of that. So you and I were talking about how you have helped people with autoimmune diseases, right? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yes. So one of the first gentlemen we ever spoke with after we delivered the first series of beds, his name was Joey. Now, Joey had Charcot-Marie tooth disease. And I knew it was serious, but I didn't know it was deadly. Not until recently when we saw in the paper that a celebrity in her 20s died from Charcot-Marie tooth disease. And it guaranteed our patient, Joey, 15 years of no walking, pain every day, and he hated his life. I mean, it was miserable. And I didn't do the interview. Most of the testimonial interviews I do because I know the questions to ask, but the practitioner did it himself, sent it into us. And when you watch this video, and I'm going to send you a series of videos and stuff like that you're more than welcome to share with your audience. After 6 visits, not only was he totally out of pain, way before that, by the 6th visit, he was running, treadmill, all kinds of stuff. And what he said, he was the first one to say this, I mean, regarding the bed, and what he said was, and I want to thank you for giving me my life back. Now, in 72, that's what I wanted. I wanted to be helpful. I wanted to hear that. And as a chiropractor, I heard it a bunch, but now we hear it a lot more. Thank you for giving me my life back. And we talked about MS, and there's no one approach. Listen, I'm not telling you get in our red light bed and then do everything else stupid. You want to eat right. You want to take care of yourself. And you know why people don't take care of themselves? Because they're not scared enough. They don't know what they're doing at a younger age and what the ramifications are. I'm 73 years old. I don't want to pass away the way I've seen so many other people just let themselves go. And, a lot of people say, I'm going to live for the day. Okay, you're going to live for the day, but you're going to regret when you're my age now that you didn't take decent care of yourself. I'm not obsessed with it. I have a life, but I don't put anything in my body that I know is bad for me. I don't drink and never have. I don't smoke and never have. I don't put any poisons or drugs or anything in my body. And you know why? I'm scared. I don't want to wind up with that.
Probably because you've seen too many people, right, that have been in really bad shape.
And if you haven't seen these people, go volunteer at an old age home.
Yeah.
And see what these people are living, how they can't take care of themselves. They can't feed themselves. They can't wash themselves. And they can't even wipe themselves. I don't want to go that way. Yeah. I tell people it's like a candle that burns really bright from the beginning all the way to the bottom and then sputters out.
Yeah.
And that's the way we should go.
Hey,
So
Carl,
at any rate, go ahead.
Can you explain? I just want to learn more about your that red light therapy and that. So I know, like, so the UVB rays that the sun gives off, those are safer. But then you've got the UVA rays that, you know, if you're in the sun too long, you can get skin cancer, right? Those are the bad rays.
We don't touch UV light. So
Okay.
I gave you the information in regards to fat loss and how that works, and that's primarily red light. There are two kinds of lights that we work with. And again, there's not very many people that know as much about this stuff as I do. And as you can see, this is my book, Illuminated Healing, and it's a very up-to-date review of red light. If you want to know red light therapy well, that's a book for you. I don't make a dime off of that. The profits go to charity. And so, but I like having it, so I just an easy explanation. Like I said, also I'm going to send you a bunch of information that you can share if you'd like. But I do want to go over the mechanism now. We talked about fat loss. Now we're going to talk about the mechanism of healing, and that's different. Now that the fat loss was only discovered 15 years ago or less, but they've been working on red light therapy in general for 50 years, looking and studying it and whatnot. And so they knew and understood a lot more, you know, and we constantly learning more and more. But what they learned was that it's near infrared. So I do want to explain to you, there's red and there's infrared, but there's no such thing as just infrared. It's either far infrared, which is a source of heat, or near infrared, which is basically what we used to call cold therapy or cold laser. And so it's a light that doesn't get hot. If it gets hot, you know you're using an inferior product. And the product that I developed, the Trifecta Light, is the premier device. It's the only one that has FDA clearance, both for healing and for fat loss. And so getting back to the infrared, it's the near infrared that we include. So it's red for fat loss and some healing, but it's really the glorious near infrared that does the magic. So how does it do that? Again, they didn't understand it in the beginning. What they finally realized is what it is that, and what they learned, and it's also about sunlight, but sunlight is thousands of times weaker than what we're going to drive into the person's body. I have no objection to somebody getting out in the sun, but Arnett, who was having the regular heart attacks, would have not benefited enough from just regular sunlight. And I love sunlight. I love good water. Don't get anybody out there saying he hates sunlight. I love sunlight. I'm just saying, let's take it to another level, drive that very powerful energy deep into the person's body. And what they learned is that this near infrared in particular stimulates the tissues. Now, our body is made up of tissues. Our tissues are made up of cells, and every cell has what's called organelles in it. And one of those organelles, or smaller items in there, is called the mitochondria. And I know most of you have heard about the mitochondria.
Oh yeah, we talk about that a lot. Yes.
But remember, when I went to school, we learned that there was one mitochondria in every cell. And that's not true, not by a long shot. And what they have subsequently learned is that there are, in some cells, the tissue that has the highest demand for energy. Again, the mitochondria is about power. It's the powerhouse of your body. It's the reason why you eat food and breathe oxygen to generate a very important molecule. And so we learned one mitochondria in every cell is not true. And the heart, which has the highest demand for energy, has over 5,000 mitochondria in every cell. So that the mitochondria is so important in your body and so dominant. What they learned is that the mitochondria in your body makes up 10% of your body weight. Nobody believed that.
Never heard that.
That's how prevalent it is and how important it is. And what they learned is that this light energy that we're talking about will stimulate the mitochondria to come back to health. So the road to disease, there are several. But one of them is having mitochondrial dysfunction. There are books now called mitochondrial there's a disease called mitochondrial dysfunction. And what do you think I'm going to tell them? Get in the bed if you have mitochondrial dysfunction, because it brings the mitochondria back. And that's what this is about. It stimulates the mitochondria. And what they learned is that it's not even the mitochondria that is stimulated. There is an enzyme in the cells called cytochrome C oxidase. And that's a chromophore. That means it's stimulated by sunlight, not the mitochondria, the cytochrome C oxidase, stimulated by the sunlight or by our red light to come back to life. And it brings the mitochondria back to life. And now having fully functional mitochondria is why a person will do so much better in many different ways, including MS. You're saying that with your diet alone, you can bring somebody back from the doom of MS. So can you imagine if you combine that smart diet with this light? Help tremendously. And so we had this one gentleman in particular, and when I send you the videos, one of them's a gentleman who's going to talk about MS.
Okay.
And I have a lot of other people, but some people are shy to come to let me interview them. But I got as many as I could get, and we're going to be getting many more. And so he would go to the neurologist, and they would look at his MRI and say, yeah, they're assuming that every year it's progressively going to get worse and worse, because that's what MS does. Year to year, it's going to get worse.
If you don't make changes, yes.
Right. Yeah, I'm talking about not making changes.
Yeah.
And the only changes they're making is drugs. And that's to get you to live with the problem better, pain relief and maybe less shakes and things like that. So our patient went back after a year, and the guy said, I think there's something wrong here, because the MS has not progressed at all. Now you're telling, and he feels great. All the symptoms are gone and blah, blah, blah. So I'm assuming that if we combined our red light with your smart diet, that the results could be absolutely spectacular. But the thing is, what we learned about the body is that if you can get the body as strong as you possibly can, then, for example, you have a room of a bunch of people. Some get COVID and some don't. Why doesn't everybody get COVID? It's not, I used to do a class, which is controversial, by the way, which is sick people get sick and healthy people stay healthy. Now, how's that possible? You're telling me that a healthy person doesn't get sick? Well, if they did succumb to the COVID, it'd be much more mild, because they're already underlying this whole thing as a healthy person.
Yeah.
Well, the people that really suffered from COVID had a comorbidity, or had an underlying problem. It was mostly people who were already sick that then when they got COVID, they were done in. And so that's true about everything. Try to stay as healthy as you can. And if you don't feel compelled, go volunteer at this old age home and see what these people are going through, and decide, is that how you want to live your older years? Is that how you want to manage?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's more about just diet. I mean, it's exercise, it's mental health. It's also taking good care of yourself. And it's more than just resting when you're tired. It's making sure that you're not stressed out all the time. You don't have a stressful job. If you're a parent, you can't be stressed out all the time. You got to figure out how to mitigate your stress. But
you're going to make the changes you can make. Some people, they'll probably tell us all to go, and I live in LA. They'll say, get out of Los Angeles. Well, I can't. So I'm going to do what I can do.
Sure.
And
sure.
There are reasons why I can't just leave my business and my practice and my family and my family's family.
Yeah.
So would it be mellower if I went on and lived on a ranch or a farm? Yeah, of course, but I can't. So I'm going to do what I can do, and that's what I'm going to recommend to you, what you can control. You can certainly control your diet. You can, with exercise, some people think it's such a big chore that they won't incorporate it in their lives. Well, don't make it a big chore. It's 30 minutes, 3 times a week, and make it something fun. If it gets boring for you to walk or to run, then watch a movie while you're on.
Do a 20-minute walk every day if you can. It's easy.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us about your beds. Are they all the same tell us how they're different. You mentioned the two different types of the red light. One's the cool, one's the warm, right? So tell us, like, when somebody comes in, do you say, okay, you should spend what, 20 minutes in this bed, depending on what their condition is? So tell us more about that.
A dose is 12 minutes.
Okay.
And that's sufficient for everybody. In other words, almost everything happens within 7 minutes, and we lock in that dose with a 12-minute dose. Now, the bed is the bed. So we don't have different beds anymore because this one's so powerful, but it can be customized. So you can change the power of the bed. You can change the frequency. The bed has the capability of pulsing that wave, and the pulsations work in a it allows the resonating frequency to resonate with different tissues. So if you study about frequency healing or resonating healing, there are numerous different ways of creating resonating frequencies. And with our bed, we incorporate vibratory frequency. So when the person is done with our bed, then they get on a whole body vibrational device. We incorporate sound frequency, so we incorporate that at the same time. And then we have light frequency. And so we have found better results when we weren't able to create frequency at the beginning of when we first built our first series of beds. Now that we've been able to incorporate frequency, we see better results.
I love that, Carl. Like, I think that's the way of the future for healing. Not only diet, but light and sound. I think that's like the future. I think that's like part of our healing future. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that. I think that's amazing. I want
you to know why you don't see a lot now of that now. Because the money is that. And that's
pharmaceuticals. Yes, I know.
And I've been involved with this since 1975, fighting that fight, whether you think it's a good fight.
Yeah,
that's 51 years of my career, of my life, going up against that. And I surrendered a long time ago with the fact that it's a tough battle. The drugs, there's a drug out there, for example, that costs $55,000 per dose. So how can you?
I believe it.
How can you? The kind of money that they can make, how can you? It's a difficult battle. Let's put it that way.
It is. I mean, it's why our health insurance is so expensive, and with MS, your typical drug is anywhere from 55 to 100 grand a year. Who could afford that? The insurance pays for most of that, but that drug is going to do more damage to the people more than they realize. So, I teach, of course, helping people heal from MS holistically, because I've done it and so many other people have done it. And this is all about what I do. But I love the fact that red light therapy is just another another modality to get on the healing path. And I also wanted to ask you too, like, there's some people that do red light therapy for their skin, right? Like, I've seen the red light masks, and some people go in just to do their face, so your upper body, their neck, things like that. Do you offer that as well, or do you only do the full body?
So the reason why the bed is called the trifecta is the triple effect of face and skin, fat loss, and healing. So yes, face and skin are a huge part of this whole project. So you can get somebody, when they're using the bed, their skin is going to look unbelievable. But the miracles, the reason why I emphasize the miracles of Parkinson's and dementia and Alzheimer's and multiple sclerosis, because people are in desperate mode, autoimmune disease. Like, for example, we had a lady that had severe rheumatoid arthritis. And it meant that when she came home, she couldn't get in. So she had to knock on the door. This gentleman would help her in because she couldn't maneuver the key to her apartment. And after 1 week of treatment, she still had problems, but she can now use the key. And after 6 weeks, which is a typical dose, is 3 times a week, for a month to 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 weeks, she couldn't believe how great she was feeling and was.
Wow.
And I want to mention to you what I'm going to recommend to anybody is try it. You know, as I've told you, the worst will happen is nothing. So you have nothing to lose by trying it. And if you would try it, and here's how you try it. You go to the website, which is trifectalight.com. And I'll be sending you the show notes, so you'll be able to share that with your audience if you'd like.
Sure.
And when they go to the website, there's going to be a page on Contact Us. And when you go to the Contact Us page, on the left side is giving you an opportunity to find out where the closest office is to you. And then go try it. Try it for 6 visits. Just need 6 visits. At the end of 6 visits, if you don't see any change at all, either they neglected to plug it in, which is probably not the issue, or you really have, you may be too far gone. It doesn't happen very often, but it's worth a try.
Can I ask you what kind of costs are involved? So if they went 3 times a week for a week,
everybody's going to be different.
Yeah. What do you charge? I'm just curious, just to give people an idea of how much this might cost them.
I'm not in practice any longer, but what I would charge is probably something like $100 a visit.
Okay.
But we've seen it less and we've seen it more. And what I tell people when they ask me what should they charge, I say it's usually about what a full-hour massage would normally cost.
Okay.
And, people will always ask me, well, is it permanent? After we've reached a point of your target, whatever that is, and we've gotten maximum benefit, we then put you on a maintenance program. That could be a once a month, could be a once a week. And the reason why nothing is permanent in the world of health is because you can continue to get older, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
And you want to maintain and sustain your well-being and health. So I don't exercise once a year. I exercise 3 times a week. I don't brush my teeth on rare occasions. I do it every day. And so maintaining your health should not be looked upon as a job. It's an opportunity for you to not have this horrific life when you're a senior citizen and not having fun.
Yeah. What I might throw in there is, I'm sure regular insurance doesn't cover that, but if somebody has a health savings account.
Okay, let's respond to the first part of your sentence here.
Yeah.
It has to do with the provider. If the provider is covered by insurance, by a nurse practitioner or a physiotherapist or chiropractor, yes, it could be covered by insurance. But HSA programs, health savings, that's a slam dunk. That's easy. You don't have to prove anything with that. But with insurance, it's just, I tell the provider to go to their billing company and let them bill it and see what you can get. So some of them some insurances don't pay for anything, and others do. But
what would you say, like 50%?
I'm
50% or so might cover it or cover part of it? You're not sure?
I'm telling people, look, as a chiropractor that is sick and tired of insurance, sick and tired of attorneys, sick and tired of anything to do with the legal stuff. I don't recommend billing insurance, but if you want to, it really depends on your license.
Sure. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Okay, so you've got a website, and it's called trifectalight.com. Is that right?
Yeah, and I also recommend you go, let's see, can you see my finger? You can go to the YouTube channel, which is superb. The videos that we have on the YouTube channel are fantastic. But also, I'm going to be sending you some videos that are even more intense from a testimonial point of view. Now that we're fully FDA cleared, we are, and this just happened within the last month, so we are migrating a lot of our videos onto our website and to YouTube. But for a while there, we were advised not to have them on there until we had the FDA clearance. So now we have that.
Now you're in California, is that right?
Correct.
And so do you have like a website where it shows where people can go and get some red light therapy in their area?
So you go to trifectalight.com,
Okay.
go to the Contact Us page. On the
Okay.
left side of that page, we'll give you an opportunity to find out if we have a location closest to you. You
Oh.
just put in your information, and one of our staff members will find the best location for you. On the right side, for some of you who are either in business, for example, and understand that this is a money maker, that this is fantastic in drawing people. It's like a magnet that will draw more people to your business than you can imagine. I just talked to this lady, and she referred 18 people to the office where she goes. And that's a lot, but it's not uncommon to see a practice mushroom and grow so significantly when you have such a quality product like this that will get so many people better. And, you know, it's important for you to understand that in the world of business, it's not satisfied patients are not the ones that refer. It's excited people. And I've never seen more excited people than with this. I do want to finish with one last thing, and that's
Yeah. I want to say, give us like one last positive message.
I wanted to talk to you about athletes. What they found is that if an athlete gets in the bed before their activity, they're going to perform better, and it's not subtle. I had a guy call me and tell me that, and he's a very serious swimmer. He said he could swim almost twice the distance he used to be able to swim because of the red light. And then they get into bed again after their activity or whatever, and they recover much better. So we have some big time stars. We have the Olympic Training Center. We have Chris Paul, who's almost a legend in the basketball world. And when we asked him, how's it going with the bed? The word he used was obsessed. He's obsessed with the bed. So now we've got a lot more athletes contacting us about getting the bed, and we'll probably have a good percentage of the NBA using our bed, and eventually that will grow to the football world. The world of football, with all the head injuries, if you have any type of brain injury, anything like that, the red light therapy bed that we have will help that tremendously. So I just wanted to mention that.
I love that. Okay, so can anyone purchase one of your beds?
Yeah.
Or just, okay.
So when you go to our website, trifectalight.com, go to
Right.
the Contact Us page. On the left side, you can find out if there's a location near you. On the right side is you can explore the possibility, if it makes sense, for you to buy such a thing for yourself or for your business. For business, it's a slam dunk. And we have less than 10%, maybe 7 or 8% of the purchases are for home use. And the reason why somebody might not do this or do this is they recognize how expensive it is to be sick. And if you don't want to be sick, if you want to go like that candle I talked about before, burning bright all the way from the beginning to the end, then this red light therapy will help you tremendously with that.
Yeah. How much is one of your average beds cost?
They lease for about $1,500 a month.
Okay. Oh, it's a lease.
Right.
That they would have in their home. Okay. Gotcha.
So, I mean, they could buy it outright, but its average is about $1,500. And from a business point of view, nobody does less than 10 times return on investment. So doing $15,000 is not difficult. And it doesn't show on this screen, but I usually have a different background and shows my second book, which also comes with the purchase. And it also comes with a series of seminars that I do on how do you build your red light business. And, you know, it's not difficult, but you have to know how to, the little tweaks that you need to know so you can do that well.
I love that. Thank you so much, Dr. Carl. I appreciate you coming on and sharing with your wisdom with us, your deep smarts. And I hope everybody takes advantage of going to his website and learning more.
I really appreciate that. You take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, okay?
Thank you.
Bye-bye.